everybody for tuning in to Uncut with Atif. Today on our show we have Jake Danneffel. Thank you, Jake, for joining us today.
Of course. Thank you, Atif.
Thank you. And my name is Atif Khan, and this is my first interview with Jake Danneffel that will be posted on my YouTube, my Instagram, Facebook page, and all the social media sites that you can think of. The reason I want to do this is because I want people to share their inspirational stories, what they enjoyed doing in the past, what they enjoy doing now, and I'm so excited to get started with this venture, and I'm so happy that my first guest is our very own Jake Danneffel, who is also my trainer. So Jake, before we get started, let's start off with getting to know you a little better, so our viewers can get a little background about yourself.
Yeah, most definitely. So, my name's Jake. I'm a personal trainer. Been doing it for a little bit over 5 years now. What got me into personal training was the fact that, I wanted to help people. That's first and foremost. It's a very rewarding job to be able to take somebody that comes to you and says that they have a goal and be able to work with them until they achieve it, and they come to you and thank you for it. It's a great thing.
Absolutely.
My background started, with sports as a young kid playing baseball, and it ventured me into playing high school ball, into college ball. Unfortunately, it didn't go any further from there. Didn't get drafted, didn't get signed or anything, and that's when I started picking up bodybuilding. We'll get into that a little bit more specifically, but just about myself, like I said, I'm a personal trainer. I've been doing it for about 5 years.
Oh wow, that is nice. And he is a wonderful trainer, you guys. If you are ever in Vegas, you should definitely check out Jake Danneffel. I will actually drop his Instagram handle down in the description below. Make sure you go follow him and send him a DM, and then ask him questions, and he is a good person. He will definitely answer your questions.
Yeah, most definitely. If you guys have any questions or anything based off of what we talked about today, I'd love to help anybody out that has any questions.
So, Jake, what actually got you into fitness and bodybuilding?
So, fitness and bodybuilding, I would definitely say they, those are two different things for myself. What got me into fitness was playing baseball, really, like I said, at a young age. Obviously not when I wasn't lifting weights. I wasn't pounding the weights when I was, 5 or 6 years old when I started playing t-ball or anything like that. But what really got me into the fitness aspect of it was I was about 12 years old, and my brother got his first weight set for Christmas when he was about 16 years old.
Wow.
And that would make me 12 or 13 at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember it was one of those old school weeder bench press setups where I had the bench press and I had the chest flies attached to the sides, had the leg extension down at the bottom, just like your standard basic startup weight set, right?
Right.
We had some dumbbells to go along with it. We had some push-up handles, so we kind of did what we could with what we knew at the time when we were that young and inexperienced.
Right.
And especially at that time, I didn't know anything about weightlifting. So as, a younger brother does, with his older brother, he follows in the footsteps naturally.
Absolutely.
And, I just kind of mimicked and I just kind of replicated everything that my brother was doing, I watch him bench press, watch him do bicep curls, push-ups, and, that's kind of my first taste of getting into fitness and getting into weightlifting, right? And then, it all just kind of just snowballed from there. Freshman year, high school, you're always, I don't know about out here, but in Vegas, had to do, first year, you had to do gym, right? Actual gym class. And then my sophomore year, we had weight training class.
Right.
So I got into weight training in high school, and I felt like I had a little bit of a upper hand on everybody because, I did have an older brother that he went through it all himself already.
Right.
And he taught me as much as he could. So I had a little bit of experience going into it, but definitely learned a lot more with form and technique and different things, to better myself in a physical state to be able to bring out my best on the baseball field. And it was probably around high school when I realized that the more in shape you are, right, the more stamina, the more endurance, the stronger you are, physically, the better it's going to make you perform on the field.
Absolutely.
So that was just something that attracted me to really just fitness and weightlifting and really everything about it.
Right. Speaking of old brothers, I would definitely want to tell you that your brother was so. You got your inspiration from your older brother. From my older brother, I just got whippings on the butt. So that's pretty much about
that happened too.
Right.
That's a natural brotherly thing.
Right.
Come from.
But the thing is, that's the only thing I got from my brother. So he used to whip me for no reason. One day I just walk into my house, a happy kid, have no idea what's going on, and then as soon as I walk in, he slaps me. And I'm literally just standing there confused. What did I even do? And turned out I didn't do anything. The only thing I did was washed the soccer ball. And he was so pissed that I washed a soccer ball, so he actually slapped me for it. But again, he's a nice guy, And then he he loves me so much. So what he did was he bought me a bag full of candies that night just to apologize. Well, as a kid, that's the only thing. That's the only bribe that can trick your mind into believing whatever your elders say is true, and they're truly sorry for it. But I'm sure in the back of their head something's going on. But so what does a normal day in your life look like?
So normal day now, for me, it's waking up at about 6 o'clock every morning.
Mm-hmm.
Try to get to bed between 10 and 11 to try to get about 7 to 8 hours of sleep. But typically, I like to wake up about 6:30 in the morning. That's when my wife's already up. She's getting ready for work herself. Spend the morning kind of together with her, and also too just waking up first thing in the morning. And kind of sets your day, right?
Right.
Sets your day to be productive. And also, too, it kind of helps, for me personally, I feel much better when I'm set in a routine.
Right.
Of when I get my body kind of almost set like on a natural body clock.
Right.
So waking up early in the morning, not only does it help me in a physical state to be able to get up and kind of get started with my day.
Yes.
But also helps with my productivity, and it also helps with spend a little bit of time with my wife, because by the time we leave the house, we're both at work all day, and then we we'll meet again at the end of the day back at home. But other than the weekends that we have time together, it's just time during the week comes we spend more time within our work within our jobs than we do with each other. So we really try to take advantage of the time that we have with each other.
I'm sure it's lovely when you have a wife. Well, I don't have a wife, so I don't know how that looks like or feels like, but I'm sure it gives you a happy feeling when you get up in the morning and then have somebody who you love next to you.
Definitely.
I'm sure that it gives you that positive vibe. It keeps you motivated.
100%. Definitely, thankful and grateful to have her in my life.
Absolutely.
And so a normal day for me, starting my day off in the morning, breakfast is always, coming in to my, breakfast normally happens within an hour to 2 hours, getting that first meal in. They say breakfast is the most important meal of the day. But really, I always thought that was just something that old people said when I was younger. But, now that I'm, in my 30s, I actually see that, yes, it is actually very important, get that first good, healthy meal, in the day to, not only for it to give you energy, but, really just, I don't know, it just makes me feel good to be able to get that first good, clean meal in the morning. Typically what that looks like for me right now, I'm not really focusing so much on eating as clean as possible that I can right now. So like right now I'm waking up, I'm having eggs and toast in the morning, and everybody says bread's, terrible for you. And it's not the, I can't have bread, but, carbs are carbs when it comes down to it.
Right.
Except for sugar. But, I'll do eggs, toast, and I'll have like a yogurt. Sometimes I'll make some oats with some fruit. If I have some time, I'll make some bacon or something like that. But for the most part, try to have a good, macronutrient balanced breakfast, really, for all my meals. And what I mean by macronutrient balanced, people don't know what your macronutrients are. It's your carbs, fats, and proteins.
Yes.
Right? So trying to get a good amount of protein. I always try to get at least 40 grams of protein in for each meal.
Oh, wow.
Like I said, right now, I'm not really focusing on so much as, not being very strict with what I'm eating right now. So, as many carbs as I get in, whether it's, some toast or whether it's oats or fruit, wherever those carbs may come from. Not really counting them, but, still try to get some sort of carbohydrates in to make sure you get some energy going for the morning.
Absolutely.
Get your fats from the yolks and the eggs. That's where all your nutrients are in those eggs, right? In the yolks.
Yes.
But yeah, that's probably as thorough as I can be about my breakfast.
Just like Americans are with their breads, Indians are with their rice.
Hey,
so
yeah.
I feel you. Carbohydrates cannot live without it.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a normal day for you.
Yeah, I would say that would be my normal start to my day. Also, too, I like to meditate.
Mm-hmm.
It's not something that I do on a daily basis, although it's something I try to do on a daily basis if I have enough time in the morning. If I'm not rushing out the door to try to hurry up and get to work, if I, schedule my time appropriately, I like to get about 10 to 15 minutes of meditation in the morning. It just helps me be productive with my day.
Absolutely.
And then, just overall, just waking up early and getting a head start, with the things that I need to do as far as, whatever tasks that I have at hand, getting a head start on them in the morning, really kind of sets your day up for success to be productive throughout the day.
Absolutely.
So after that, going to work, I typically, as I said, I'm a personal trainer. So, I normally start my training sessions at about 9 o'clock every morning. So going to the gym, I'll have a few sessions in the morning. Typically get my workout in the middle of the day. I have a break that's set up within my schedule in order to allow me to get a workout in.
Right.
Gotta have some me time.
Absolutely.
I got a couple dogs at home that I always try to at least get out for a walk at least once a day. So if I don't get them out the first thing in the morning before I leave for work, I'll come home in the middle of the day. The way that personal trainer schedule is set up, if you're lucky enough, you're full, right?
Right.
Every hour's booked. But typically, a lot of times, your sessions are going to be a little bit sporadic and spread out throughout the day.
Right.
So there's times, certain days where I have, an hour or 2 hour break, within the day outside of my normal break time to where I can slip away, get out of the gym, come home, get them out for a walk, head back, train some sessions, do my workout, whatever it may be. And as a personal trainer, you got to work around people's work schedules.
Absolutely.
Typically, I'll have a few sessions in the morning, before people go into work. I'll have a few sessions, with some people that after they finish up with their shift, if they have a normal 9 to 5 job, I'm training, 5, 6, 7 o'clock at night. And then I'm lucky enough to have, right now, have a few, retired people that really don't work and, they sit around the house all day. So they'll come in the middle of the day, around like the noon hour, and work out. So lucky enough to be able to have that luxury of having some time within the day to kind of focus on the things that I need to do.
Absolutely. And will I be right if I say that sometimes you also have to train people at the early hours? I mean, within within the window, like the 6 to 9 window, which is the hard to get up kind of get to work window. You see what I'm saying?
I try to stay out of that window with work. That's like I said, I'm waking up at normally 6 o'clock every day. And I think I might have embellished a little bit as far as how well I do in the mornings when I wake up. And I'm not really so much of a morning guy.
Me either.
As cliche as it may be, when people say but coffee first, right?
Oh yes.
That's me right there. I gotta have my cup of coffee. I may be up, but my brain's not active and really awake until maybe an hour or two after I'm actually awake.
I'm the same person.
But I remember when I first started training, within the first couple of years, those early days of when I was trying to build my business, when I was inexperienced and when I was, really trying to build my books, definitely my schedule was open starting at 6 a.m. because of the fact that, there were some people that, they may start work at 8 or 9 o'clock.
Right.
And, some people are just morning people,
right.
and they're going to tell me, the only time I'm going to be able to make it in is in the morning before I go to work. Well, at the time, I didn't have, like I said, the luxury of having so many clients to where I could, kind of set up my time for myself.
Right.
I had to then take the sacrifice within that time and come in on their time.
Right. Yeah. And I'm the same person. I need at least 2-3 cups of coffee within the first 6 hours of getting up. in order for me to be able to survive the rest of the day. Trust me, Jake. If I don't get my morning coffee, I'm like the stupidest person you have ever seen in your life. Trust me on that. So that was more like a regular day schedule.
Mm.
So do you also have cheat days?
Yes, and I say that say it in the sense that yes, us personal trainers, we are human.
Absolutely.
We may preach healthy lifestyle, but at the same time, it's not 100% all the time. Definitely Sunday nights, that's my pizza night.
Oh wow.
So I'm getting on my phone, I'm ordering Domino's to the house. That's kind of my typical go-to because I don't want to leave the house at the time when I'm already home.
Right.
I want to have it brought to me, right?
Right. So what kind of pizza do you like?
I just regular pizza, as far as just like the hand toss, I guess you could say, regular marinara sauce, and I like to load it up with just a bunch of protein. Do pepperoni, chicken, beef, Italian sausage. Yeah.
Still focusing on protein.
Like a meat lover's pizza. Oh yeah, gotta get that protein.
Absolutely, absolutely.
But yeah, I mean, I guess you could say my weekends right now, like I said, typically when I'm getting ready for a show, which last show that I've done was way back in 2017.
Mm-hmm.
So it's been a little while since I can kind of tap into that mind state of mind. But if I'm prepping for a show, I'm trying to eat my clean, regimented meals, 6 or 7 of them a day.
Yes.
Every day up until, if I am granted, because not a lot of times you're granted a cheat meal every week. It depends on where you're at within your prep. Depends on like how you're looking,
Right.
Sometimes you got to earn those cheat meals, It's not always a guaranteed thing. But if I'm lucky enough to, get a meal, Sunday night, or sometime on the weekend, it's, it kind of just goes based off like what I'm craving. And I'll tell you what, man, I grew up on a fast food diet. I grew up eating McDonald's and Jack in the Box and Wendy's. I mean, there was a Wendy's that was blocks away behind our high school. So that was like our meetup. After, if we're, meeting up for a party or something, like everybody would meet at Wendy's and then go out from there. I was probably the one guy that was going in and ordering, double cheeseburgers and chicken nuggets, and I was smashing it down before, we headed out to the party or whatever it may have been.
Right.
So definitely I grew up, eating your typical, fast foods. And yeah, I mean, it's tough because, that stuff is good.
When you say that you have to earn cheat meals, I earn my cheat meals I think 4 or 5 times a day. So even if I wash my clothes, that's one cheat meal earned. So I fold my clothes, that's another cheat meal earned. So hey, I'm living the best life. Can't complain. So so you're definitely a pizza lover.
Pizza lover, and then yeah, definitely. I mean, cheeseburgers, you can't go wrong with those. I love Chick-fil-A. But yeah, like I said, like right now, like I would say my weekends are kind of almost like cheat days.
Do you have a sweet tooth?
Oh, 100%. Yeah. I got a buddy that'll tell you that Sour Patch Kids are my vice.
They are amazing. Can't go wrong with it.
Yeah, most definitely. Yeah, just I remember in elementary school, we had a snack shack,
right?
And I remember my mom would give me $2 or $3 every day, and it was lemon heads. What else was it? It was lemon heads, Pop Rocks. I mean, just
Swedish
fish.
Fish.
It was just. My wife loves Swedish Fish.
Oh,
that's
amazing.
Her vice. Yeah, you got to keep those away from her. But yeah, I just remember just growing up and just definitely having a sweet tooth. Still carries over to this day. You got to be mindful of it.
Absolutely.
But yeah, there's definitely definitely times when I can kind of get away with eating out too much myself. And I gotta kind of tell myself, Jake, come on, man, you bought all these groceries over the weekend. You ate all this food. You got to eat that. Quick going and grabbing a sandwich and whatnot. But we're human. We still have our tendencies to be able to kind of break from our normal regimented meals. That's
so me, Jake. I head to Walmart. I buy groceries. I buy vegetables, and I usually stuff my refrigerator up. And as soon as you open the door, everything's falling down, right? And then every day I look at that and think about it this way. I'm like, hey, I've had enough junk food. Now I gotta start focusing on my life. But then my roommate, he is a bad man. He says, hey, do you want to have ice cream? And that's it. I just shut down the refrigerator, head straight out to Cold Stone and have my ice cream.
Yeah.
So, Jake, so now that since we're already on the topic of nutrition, there are a lot of people that think, they think that keto diet is the best way to go, or keto is really helping a lot of people, is what articles suggest on Google. So, what is your take on that?
Ketogenic diets, they can be good and they can be bad, and, where and when they're good is for specific populations. And when I speak of those specific populations, I'm speaking to those that are overweight, okay? So if you think of what the ketogenic diet is, right? It's a state of getting your body into ketosis. In order for your body to fall into ketosis, it's a certain amount of time that and it's going to be a different number, but the standard number that the experts say of the amount of carbs, the amount of grams of carbs that you want to intake in order for your body to fall into ketosis is you want to stay under 50 grams of carbs a day. Okay, so when you take someone like myself or you, right? We necessarily don't have a whole lot of extra body fat that we're holding on to. Okay, so 50 grams of carbs, right? We're going to burn those up pretty quick, right? And think about what carbohydrates do. Carbohydrates provide energy.
Right.
Okay, so now if you take someone like myself, like I said, I eat 50 grams of carbs, or more in a single meal, and I'm eating 5 to 6 meals in a day. Okay.
True.
So, but also at the same time, my metabolism is a lot faster than the average person, right? And my body is set up to be able to take in that amount of food on a daily basis, as well as to burn that food because of the exercise and because of the lean muscle mass that I have, right? The more lean muscle mass you have on your body, the more you have to feed that, because, your muscles is what provides, or really is what calls for sustenance from the body.
Right.
Right? So if you take someone that's overweight, so to say, right? So
a person like me, basically, the
no,
good amount of fat.
I would say somebody that's even more so. Okay? I would definitely say that the ketogenic diet would be beneficial for them, only because of the fact that they have extra fat storage to be able to burn. Okay? So now, 50 grams of carbs. There's four calories to every gram of carbohydrate. So if you have 50 grams of carbs, that's 200 calories.
Yes. 200
calories, you can fit that in the palm of your hand.
True.
Not even, right?
True.
So, and if you compare that to your standard, recommended intake of calories for the day, which is 2,000. I'm not that good at math. What's 200 compared to 2,000? What's
that's 10%.
10%. There you go.
Absolutely.
Right. 10% of your diet is coming from those carbohydrates.
Yes.
Therefore, you have to make up that 90% within your fats and your proteins.
Yes.
Right.
Absolutely.
So, really, like I said, when you think about carbohydrates and what they do, they provide energy. Okay. So if you have somebody that's overweight, right, and they're only taking in X amount of carbs, X amount of calories, right? So their body is going to be able to provide more sustenance based off of the fact that they have more storage to be able to provide if they go into a state of, let's say, starvation, right? So if you don't eat enough calories, right, the body's going to find those calories within itself, right? Our bodies are adaptive machines, okay? Our bodies are made to survive, right? So if you don't eat, the body will eat away at itself. Right. So if you have somebody, like, let's say, like me and you, okay? So we have a little bit of fat storage on us, but not a whole lot. Right? So once we get to that point where if we're not eating enough food, enough calories, to be able to provide our body with the amount of sustenance that it needs, the body's going to find it from within.
Absolutely.
So it's the first place where it's going to go to fat, right?
Okay.
Which it sounds in a logical sense, it almost sounds like, oh, that's what you want to do then. If you want to lose weight, don't eat. That way the body eats up all the fat.
Right.
Once the body starts to use the fat as energy,
Uh-huh.
it's going to realize that fat is just waste. There's really no nutritional value to it. So it's going to burn a little bit of it, but then it's going to figure out this isn't providing me really any energy because there's nothing there that's really providing me with any kind of nutrients. Where does the nutrients sit in the body? It sits in your muscle, right? Your muscle has a protein in it, has the amino acids, has all those nutrients because blood flows through muscle. Blood flows around fat, right? So where are all the nutrients in your body, right? They flow through your blood into your muscles.
Yes.
So you're going to get to a point where if you're not eating enough, yes, it will start to burn a little bit of fat, but before you know it, it's going to start burning up muscle.
Oh.
100%.
I tried that diet for a week. I was so frustrated in the end. I just wanted to get rid of it. So, funny story. So, day one, keto diet. I'm all pumped up, excited, looking a bunch of videos online, hundreds of videos. And so I head to my nearest Walmart, stack up my fridge with everything that's just fat. Okay. And so excited. And at work, I walk in the next morning and everybody's like, oh, let's go for team lunch. I'm like, no, I'm sorry. I am just on a diet, especially on a keto diet. And I cannot eat what you guys are eating. That's unhealthy. So 1 week passed by, and I think it was 9th day or 8th day that I got so frustrated. I was craving for carbs. I wanted to eat bread so bad. I never had a craving for bread because I was never a bread person. I was always a rice person. But that day, I saw my roommate eating bread, and I just lost my mind. I just wanted to have it so bad. That is the moment when I decided, hey, keto is not for me. I'm just quitting this diet right now, and just jumped on that piece of bread. I grabbed that piece of bread, and that was the tastiest bread I've had in my entire life. I promise.
So now cravings, you bring up cravings, right? Cravings only happen in the body when your body is deficient of certain nutrients.
Right.
So your body was lacking carbohydrates, so you were craving carbohydrates, right? And another thing about the ketogenic diet, what I don't agree with is the fact that, carbohydrates will break down as glucose in the bloodstream, right? So if you look up the way that your brain works, everybody's brain, your brain has to have a certain amount of glucose in it in order for it to work properly, right? So when people say that you get that foggy brain, syndrome when it comes to, the ketogenic diet, no, it's because you're not providing your body with the nutrients that it needs for it to properly work. The brain needs glucose in order to be at its full functioning state. So if you're not eating carbohydrates, then your body's not breaking down any glucose, right?
Right.
And in the same sense, like if you're only bringing in those 50 grams of carbohydrates, that glucose is going to get spread out to your organs before it actually goes to your brain.
Right.
Because it has to help with your digestion before it actually travels all the way up through the bloodstream in order to get to your brain.
Absolutely.
Right.
I have a question. This is one of my friends sent me this question. He follows a lot of Instagram models and Instagram fitness gurus. So he had this question for you. His name is Faisal, by the way. Just giving you a good shout out. So Faisal was asking me, what do you, Jake Danneffel, think about these Instagram fitness gurus?
I think there's more good than bad that comes from it. It's Instagram is a way for people to put themselves on a platform to share their passion, right? Whether it's fashion, whether it's fitness, whether it's travel, whether it's just family life. Right?
Absolutely.
But when it comes to fitness, I feel like when people are doing it for the right reasons, people are trying to reach out and they're trying to inspire others, right? They're trying to motivate others.
Right.
Right? So if you have a fitness trainer, a fitness guru, whatever you want to call it on there that you're following, think about what's the reason why you're following them, right? What are you getting out of it?
Right.
Okay. So if you're getting something out of it as far as it's helping you get to the gym, if it's helping you learn about certain exercises, if it's helping you learn about form as technique, whatever it may be, if you're using it in a positive way, and if it's motivating you, and if it's getting you off your butt and making you move, and it's getting you to do more than what you would be if you didn't have it, then there's nothing but good that comes out of that.
Absolutely, I second that.
Yeah. So I feel when people are trying to do it to show off, when people are doing it for attention, and when people are giving false information, right? Because they may not have the experience, they may not have the full knowledge base to be able to share correct information, right?
True.
That's where that's a little bit of bad that resides in it.
Right.
A lot of people will I follow a lot of bodybuilders. I follow a lot of sites that follow bodybuilders themselves, and yeah, I get motivation out of it too, and also too, just by watching what others do for themselves, right? It kind of helps me kind of tweak my workouts, right? It makes me look at things with an open eye, with an open mindset, and say, well, there's so many different ways to skin a cat, right? Right? And when it comes to it, like I had an old manager, I came to him once about a question about a specific workout, right? And I was looking for a specific answer out of it, and I can't remember the exact question, but I remember his answer. And I'll never forget this. And he tells me, Jake, a press is a press. I'm like, okay, but what about this, that? And then I repeat the question, it's like trying to get that specific answer out of him. And all he would tell me is a press is a press. And like, he made me think about it, I didn't realize it at that exact moment, but it wasn't until later on down the road that I realized that a press is a press, whether you do it standing, lying, seated on a ball, whether it's overhead, whether it's a chest press, whether it's with a barbell, dumbbells, whatever it may be, it's a movement.
Right.
It's all about how you apply that movement.
Right.
And there's so many different ways that you can apply movements and incorporate movements with one another that it's all in the way that you relate to it yourself and what you're trying to get out of it.
Right.
So it really kind of opened my mind to be able to actually be able to learn that there's just not one specific way of doing things.
Absolutely.
Right? So I think a lot of what the fitness gurus and trainers and what they're trying to do with their social media, I mean, yeah, there's a little bit of bragging and boasting that comes with it, right?
True.
But at the same time, if you're getting something out of it to where, it's like, wow, I never thought about doing it that way, right? And if you can look at it with an open mind and you go and try it and it feels good, if it feels right, hey, you just added another tool to your toolbox.
Right. By the way, my followers will agree to your point about boasting it, because I do that, and I actually get comments from people like, "You're just bragging it way too much." I'm like, "Yeah, but I love it, so I do it." You mentioned that you do follow people, right? So who specifically inspires you?
I would say my biggest inspiration when it comes to bodybuilding fitness is Kai Green.
Oh wow!
Yeah, Kai Green is my favorite. He not only is he just a very he's a mass monster. I mean he's pushing 300 pounds lean. Almost cut to the bone. But I mean it's just he's one of those guys where 99, I would even say 99.9% of the population can't physically attain what he has. Wow. And that's, once again, I'm not that great at math. I don't know, how many people there are in the world, but I can tell you there's only one Kai Green,
Right.
And not only is that impressive in itself for what he's been able to do with his physique, and with himself, with his bodybuilding, but I think the biggest quality that he has to offer to people is how he talks about how your mind is actually your biggest strength.
Absolutely.
Right? And the more that I started to follow him, the more that I started to watch his videos, the more that I realized that it wasn't just talk. It really is the fact that, the power that you have comes from your mind.
Absolutely.
Because the strength that you're able to gain within life, right? Anybody can get up and do something, right? But it's the thought that you have to put in your head that convinces you to go and do it.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
So he says, your body is a manifestation of your thoughts, right? Anybody can say, I want this, I want that, I wish I could have this, I hope for this. But it's those who actually get up and do the work, right? But it comes from your mind of being able to convince yourself that you're able to do it.
Right.
And that's what I've taken away from him,
Do you still watch his videos? I mean, and do you still follow his workout regime or stuff like that you might think will benefit you?
100%. Oh yeah.
You do?
Not only him. There's a lot of others. That are in the bodybuilding industry, and like now it seems like there's so many bodybuilders out there. So many pros. So many people that actually have a lot of knowledge and have a lot of good things to share. But like I said, it's just his mindset and just the way that he talks about, your awareness that you have to have in the gym. Right. So you can go through a lift, right? And you can press out a bunch of weight, but like, what did you get from that? Right. Like, what were the contractions that you felt? What muscles were activated? It's just all those things that you have to think about when you're lifting, right? Because it's not just moving the weight, right? It's a connection that you have with that weight that really is just the tool that's going to help bring out the best in what you're trying to do with it.
Right.
So you really got to tap into, how is this helping me?
Right.
Right. And there's so many different ways around that question that you can answer it.
Absolutely. So I watch a lot of fitness gurus online as well. So the way it works for me is I watch a lot of videos before going to the gym, and I'm all pumped. I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna hit the gym and kill it today. I walk into the gym, I look myself up in the mirror, I'm like, probably I'm in a good shape, and I come back home. So that's definitely not the way to go.
Complacency.
Oh yeah. So that's definitely not the way to go. So who did you used to follow back in the day, before you even started bodybuilding, or was there somebody who got you into working out or fitness?
Yeah. So before I started bodybuilding, like I said, I played baseball. That was my first passion. That was my first love. Right. So I grew up. And I'm a huge Cubs fan, right? So I grew up watching the Cubs, every day during the summer. But just in general, I mean, I still to this day, I love baseball. Just the playing the game. I don't play anymore, obviously, because I'm focused on my bodybuilding. But just when I played, I loved it. There wasn't anything better in the world for me. I loved watching it. I loved going to games. I loved reading about baseball, reading stats, reading up about players, their personal lives, just everything that goes around it.
Go Cubs!
There you go.
I'm just supporting your passion.
I like it.
You like Cubs, and I have to support what you follow.
Man, I'll take it. So really, when I first got into bodybuilding, I didn't really know who the bodybuilders were. And I was still. I would go on my phone and I would, go to MLB.com and I would look up stats and I would look up, reports. I would look up, transactions. I would look up, I was just so still fixated on baseball because I didn't know anything about the bodybuilding world. When I got into bodybuilding, like I said earlier, it's because really I couldn't go any further with baseball. I took it as far as I could, right? As far as, really kind of to a point where I was almost, told that, I was pretty much done playing ball in the sense of I didn't get drafted, out of college. No independent team, gave me an offer to sign onto a team. I could have had a chance to walk onto a team, but, at the time, I was living out here in Colorado. I grew up in Las Vegas. I was, as I was playing ball out here and going to college, I didn't I didn't have scholarship, right? So I had a little bit of student aid, grant money, but for the most part, it was my mom and my dad that was, funding, me staying out here and playing ball. So in order for me to go travel to, a place like Kansas or Nebraska or wherever they were having a tryout, right? It was going to cost money, and I just, I didn't have, the luxury of having those funds at the time because everything went into when I was playing college, you know? So, when I first started bodybuilding, it was, like I said, I started bodybuilding because I was done playing baseball, and I accepted that fact. But I didn't accept the fact that didn't want to just not do anything. I remember there was one day I was just sitting on the couch, and to be honest with you, I was smoking weed and I was eating some Doritos, and, I was just, being a bum, and just one day I just kind of like said to myself, I'm like, what am I doing? I still have a passion in me to compete at some level, whether it's on the field, whether it's, whatever it may be, so
Right.
I still had that fire inside of me that I wanted to do something, right? I grew up my whole life thinking that, I would be a professional baseball player at some level, whether it's just in the minors, majors, every little kid grows up saying they're going to be a major league baseball player that plays baseball, right? But really realistically, I don't know the percentage of how many actually make it, but it's a very, very slim percentage. So I always thought at least, I would play in the minors at some level, right? I was good in high school, I was good in college, but it just never panned out. So in my mind, I always had it set that I was going to be a professional athlete, right? So when it came down to the point after, it was like maybe 2 weeks after I got done with my senior year out here in Colorado, like I said, I was sitting in my apartment, I was just being a bum, and just something just came over me and said, you know what? I got to get off my butt and I got to go do something. And the thought that came into my mind was an old manager that I had when I worked at a GNC for, it was only for a few months that I was working at a GNC. I think I was like 20 years old. In Las Vegas, I played for a junior college for 2 years. And then that following year, my junior year, I tried to go out to a school in Arkansas and go play there, but that just didn't turn out. I ended up hightailing it back home after like a month and a half after I was there. And then it was within that year that I wasn't, going to school, and I wasn't really playing ball. And I picked up a job at GNC because my dad said, if you're going to be living back at home and not going to school and playing ball, then you're going to have to work, right? So I went and got a job at a GNC, and I would say I was probably about 190, 195 pounds at the time, and wasn't as lean as I was then. I just, holding on to probably a little bit more body fat back then, but I just had a good frame, right? And that's when I was lifting, I was starting to lift heavy because I had the free time, right? And I was working at GNC, so I tried to look the part and all that.
Right.
And I had a manager, his name was Brian Dover, and he used to always say to me, almost like every day, he'd be like, dude, you need a bodybuild. You need a bodybuild. You got the frame for it. Like, I could see it, And I told him, I'm like, dude, whatever you see, whatever I have, it's from me training to try to be better on the baseball field.
Right.
Because that's the way that I always worked out. I always try to work out to be stronger, faster, bigger, stronger, faster, in order to support my play on the field.
Right.
So I told him, I'm like, dude, I'm an athlete, right? And this was what would have been my junior year of college, right? And then after I got done, working there, and after that summer, when the next summer rolled around, that's when I came out here to Colorado, and I had a friend at the time that was already out here that year playing for Metro State. And he told me, he's like, dude, we're losing our catcher next year. Our catcher's a senior right now. It's going to be an open spot. I know you can come out and make this team if you come out for the open tryout. They had open tryouts, and they were inviting 2 players onto the team within that tryout.
Wow.
So he told me, Jake, come on, man. Get your shit together. Get out here and try out. I know you'll make it, So sure enough, came out here, enrolled in school. Ended up staying at the Regency at the student dorms, and I ended up trying out. It was a 2-day tryout. At the end of the day, I was told I was invited to, come onto the team, and ended up coming out here, and I played at Metro State to finish up my senior year.
Oh, wow.
So at the time when my manager at the GNC was telling me, you should bodybuild, it was in one ear and out the other.
Right.
It didn't apply to me at the time. Right? It didn't resonate, right? It didn't mean anything to me because in my mind, I was still an athlete. I still was going to play ball somewhere, and I ended up coming out here playing ball my senior year. And in that time, I was still probably, in that arrogant, mindset that I was going to come out here, I was going to have a great season, some scout's going to see me and I'm going to get drafted, right? As I said before, it didn't turn out, right? So it was that 2 weeks after, after I got done playing my senior year, and I'm sitting around the house and, just like I said, being a bum, and all of a sudden, I just heard Brian's voice pop into my head out of nowhere. And I could practically hear his voice saying, "Jake, you need a body build." And it was like I don't know if you ever seen the movie Field of Dreams.
No,
Where, it's a movie where he's told if you build it, it will come, right? And like it was almost like I just heard this voice out of nowhere, and it just like inspired me to like, all right, I'm gonna try this. I'm gonna give bodybuilding a shot. This dude. I mean, he was this 6'4", 250, 60-pound friggin' Filipino guy. And it sounds kind of contradicting, but this guy was a tank. I mean, he had arms that were just like the size of your head. Oh. And yeah, and he was, like I said, he was a manager at GNC, and he was what I saw as a bodybuilder. That's what I envisioned as a bodybuilder at the time.
Wow.
And yeah, and I just remember like, if this dude is telling me that I got a chance to do it, I got to listen to it and I got to give it a shot.
Right.
What have I got to lose? What am I going to do? Right.
Right.
Sitting around here doing all the wrong things, not doing anything with my life, not being productive. So yeah, so it was like the next day I called a buddy of mine who had a 24-hour fitness, membership. And I told him like, hey, I want to come. I want to start working out with you, right? And my buddy Eric, and it's kind of contradicting because we joke about it now because he didn't really keep up with working out because like he at the time was all gung ho about working out, right? He actually helped me pay for my first month of my membership to help me get started. So I wasn't really working a job. I just got out of school. I didn't really have any money. So he put down the payment to get me started, working out in the gym. And then, slowly I just started, overpassing him with my physique, my physical stature. And like, we kind of look back at it now and he jokes around. He's like, you wouldn't even be bodybuilding if it wasn't for me. I got you started in the gym.
So basically, he's taking the credit for it.
Yeah, of course.
It's a well-deserved credit, by the way. Well, you did it, and now Jake is a beast, and I always say that. He looks a beast, and he's a very knowledgeable person. He knows a lot about his stuff, and that's just personal experience with Jake, because. At the time when I started working out, I had no clue what I was doing. I was just lifting whatever. I'm just doing bench press. I'm just doing shoulder press. And when I started with Jake was like, dude, you gotta fix your stuff first. Just don't worry about the weight. For now, just stick with 10, 20s. Just fix your posture and the way you do it. And that actually helped me a lot.
Oh yeah,
definitely
100%.
Did. Definitely did.
Yeah, so it's and when it comes to personal training, it's since I have Eric to thank me for my bodybuilding, I also have my wife to thank me for personal training. She was actually the one that, it's a funny story. She's the one that actually inspired me to become a trainer. So I was before I started training at the 24-Hour Fitness. And I bring that up because I was a member at 24-Hour Fitness, right? And then now I work at a 24-Hour Fitness, right? So it's kind of funny how, life comes around in a circle.
Right.
But at that time, I was working for a roofing company out here. I was doing deliveries for a roofing company. And I had a manager that was a really good guy outside of work. But during work hours, he was just a very stern boss that he wanted things done his way and his time. And if it wasn't done the right way or if something went wrong, he was going to let you know about it. And he let you know, and when he let you know about it, you as well as everybody within a probably mile radius heard him as well, right? He was kind of a screamer like that, he'd get on people, right? So I remember I was working there for probably about 2 years, and at this time, I'd probably been with my wife for about a year at the time, and I didn't realize that I was doing this so often until, this happened. Well, I called my wife one day after, my boss Denny, something happened where, he got on me, he was yelling at me, he was being a jerk or whatever, so I called my wife to vent about it, and then I called my wife at work and, I start telling her about it and all of a sudden she just hangs up on me. I'm like, what the hell was that? So I call her back. I'm like, hey, what's going on? And she's like, I'm tired of you always bitching about your boss, okay? So if you don't like it, then do something about it. And she said straight up that day, she was like, you always talk about personal training. You always talk about how you wish you could do it, how you want to do it, and how you think you could be a good trainer. Why don't you just suck it up and just figure out how the way to do it? And it was literally that day I called a friend of mine who was a membership manager at 24-Hour Fitness. And I said, hey, man, like, I want to get into training, and it just snowballed from there. I ended up starting in sales, signing people up for memberships for the first few months before I became a trainer. That way I could learn the sales side.
Right.
And then after that, I transitioned over to training.
Okay.
And that was about 6 years ago almost at this point. So,
Wow.
yeah, so just as much as I have Eric to thank me for getting me started with my bodybuilding, I have my wife to thank for getting me started with personal training.
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
So, Jake, you talked about how you played college baseball back in the days. So how did that help you, and what experiences did you have that helped you to be what you are today?
My time playing baseball, I wouldn't trade for the world. I can't say I enjoyed every minute of it. But the experiences that I had, the people that I met, the players that I played with, it was definitely very memorable in the sense to where it kind of shaped me who I am today. Although the outcome didn't happen the way that I wanted, I ended up in my mind I got cut short from as long as I was going to play the game. I still had a lot of good times on the field. It's just it's something that I truly miss, but it's something that once again, it's those experiences that that led me to where I'm at here today.
Right. So if you get a chance, will you go back to playing baseball?
If I had a chance to go back and do it all over again, I would, and I would do a lot of things over differently. And what I mean by that is that I didn't take it as seriously as I probably should have. I to be honest with you, I was more fixated and I was more focused on partying and having fun, even in high school. And then it got even worse when I led into college, right?
Right.
I started, I think, smoking pot when I was 14 years old, right? And it wasn't an everyday thing, but it was an often thing. And you can ask all my teammates, even in high school, I was known as a party animal on the team. I used to, show up at parties and, that was my thing. I used to love to go out on weekends. I used to try to sneak out, and try to get drunk and try to get high. And, it was just, that's where my mind was. I wanted to have fun. I lived in the moment and I wasn't thinking about really, the repercussions of it. So, I played 4 years varsity and playing baseball. I was a 4-year starter, right? And I think that, it was one of those things where, my ego kind of got inflated from it, and, I thought I was a lot better than I actually was. And I thought I could get away with doing less and being able to get more out of it, if that makes sense, right? I thought I was so good that I didn't have to worry about, I didn't have to worry about certain things, and I can go and do and have fun and do what I wanted to do, and just my talent would be there when I was on the field, and that would override all the bad things that I was doing behind the scenes, right? Once I got to college, it kind of hit me pretty quick that I realized that it's not going to work that way. Now it's a higher level of play, higher caliber of players, and I'm playing against, playing with. And I ended up losing playing time. My first 2 years that I played at the junior college, when I was in Vegas, I was in line. I was competing for the starting job to be the catcher, and once again, I was drinking on the weekends. I was smoking pot too much, and I was just always thinking about when's the next party rather than when's my next opportunity to practice.
Right.
So really, it was just one of those things where if I could go back and do it all over again, I definitely would, and I would do it in a way where I would be more focused on what I was there for.
Absolutely.
On my studies. That's another thing. I didn't actually finish college. I went 4 years and I don't have a degree to show for it. I kind of, looking back, at the time, I don't care about it, but now it's I really wish that I would have, saw it all the way throughout, have something to prove and have something to show for that time that I spent, playing ball and going to school,
Absolutely.
but I just, it made me realize today, that, there's a time and a place for everything.
Absolutely.
And I was too young and dumb and too focused on trying to have fun and, worrying about the right now rather than about, how is this going to affect me down the road?
Absolutely.
And, and yeah, it's comes to this, from that point to today, I could even say, even after college, even when I first started bodybuilding, I once I started bodybuilding, I started, doing a lot of research. I started doing a lot of reading about like nutrition and what I need to eat, things like that. Even when I first started, it was once again it was my wife that told me, I wasn't eating right. She's always like, oh, there's no bodybuilders who eat chicken, rice, and broccoli, right? And I was still eating sandwiches, and still eating fast food and all this. But the one thing that I learned that I shouldn't do is drink.
Mm-hmm.
So that was an easy thing for me to do because I learned very early on that alcohol just breaks down protein synthesis.
So, from those experiences, whatever you have had to face back in the days, what do you advise to the young kids out there that maybe are going through the same situation and just need that motivational push, and that can help them achieve their dreams?
Kind of like how I said before, there's a right place and time for everything,
Right.
and it's a matter of knowing right from wrong. I think everybody has a good concept of the right thing to do, the wrong thing to do, right? I know I did. I had my mom always telling me make wise choices, and I always remember, that was always what she would say when I walked out the door, and of course, I was doing the exact opposite, trying to try to sneak in what I could, and trying to cover up and hide, hide the choices that I actually was making, and I tell you what, man. I mean, it wasn't until quite recently where I even figured it out myself. I even after I met my wife and even after we got married, I mean, there was still times where I was still sneaking around and with that pot habit, that I talked about, that I shared with you. It's like that's still something that lingered, into our lives.
Right.
That was still something that I just wasn't ready. Can't say able, but ready to give up myself. And it was something that really affected our relationship in a trust way. You lose a lot of trust when you tell someone that you're doing this and you're doing that, but really you're trying to do whatever you can to try to hide and try to cover up what you're actually what you're actually going against what you're saying you're doing.
Absolutely.
So it's got to come to a point where you have to be ready for it. And it's going to happen at a different time for everybody.
Right.
And only that person is going to know the right time for them. But at the same time too, it's like I'm not going to tell you not to do it, right? You kind of got to experience it for yourself to figure out what's going to be what it's going to be for you.
Absolutely.
It's I in a way I'm kind of glad that I went through it all, because it allowed me to see the light at the end of the tunnel, allowed me to go through what I needed to go through, and then actually be able to say to myself and look myself in the mirror and be able to say, what are you doing? Now it's at a point where it's not affecting you, but it's affecting others around you. It's affecting your loved ones. It's affecting the most important person in your life in a way, It's
Absolutely.
just, so it's just one of those things where it's like, you have to come to that realization with yourself that, hey, if you know that you're not doing the right thing, how is it affecting you, but also too, how is it affecting your life?
Absolutely, absolutely. And Jake, I really appreciate you opening up about this, and I'm pretty sure that this will help a lot of people, because I personally know a lot of people that are struggling with habits and they just don't want to continue with it. They just want that motivational push, and I think your story will definitely give them a boost. And thank you so much for opening up about this.
Yeah, and it's just you're very welcome for it. I speak openly to it because I don't want to be the one to say that I'm a saint, right? Because I know deep down inside I'm not.
Right.
But really when it comes to it, it's about the choices that we make. And I knew for the longest time that I was making the wrong choice.
Right.
Because even in the process of when I was doing it, in the moment, I was trying to figure out how I was going to hide and cover it up. Like, if that you're trying to convince or you're trying to sway, the opinion or the view that someone else has of you on whatever you may be doing or whatever you may not be doing, then right then and there, you already know it's the wrong thing to do.
Absolutely.
Right? And it's just, I can't tell you how many times, I just, I just had to come to that, how many times I had the conversation with myself, and how many times I justified it, and how many times I made an excuse.
Absolutely.
Right?
More power to you, Jake. And I think it's really important that a person realizes that that this thing that I'm doing is not right, and I have to stop, and I have to change my ways of doing it. I have to sort out my life and things around me, my relationships and stuff. And you realizing that, and just getting rid of that habit altogether and focusing on your dream, bodybuilding, I think is definitely inspirational for a lot of people out there, including myself. So Jake, as you've talked about how you enjoy doing bodybuilding and you love working out. So how many bodybuilding shows have you done in the past, and how was your experience about just going out in front of so many people, posing for the camera? And I think if you go to a bodybuilding show, you have to train really hard for it. So how was that experience for you?
You know, it really is great in a sense to where if you can foresee that the struggles that you go through in the midst of getting ready for it is going to build up to that point where you said, when you're on that stage, when you're under those lights, a lot of people get caught up, and even myself too, early on. I've done 4 shows.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I did my first one in 2014. I did one in 2016, and then 2 in 2017. But I would say for all 4 of those shows, I still haven't figured out a way to be able to enjoy the dieting, to enjoy the cardio.
Mm-hmm.
Really just the work that goes into it. The most the most enjoying part of it all is the post-show treats that you eat, right? It's not really, the time that you spend on stage. It's, being able to eat something good after eating, bland food, very clean food for, X amount of weeks, months at a time. But it is, and it's a lot of work. And the one thing that I can say is that, I'm still trying to find a way to be able to enjoy the time spent that you have to put that work in, because really it's the work. It's the work that leads you to the end result.
Absolutely.
Right.
Were you nervous when you got a confirmation for your first show, and then you knew for sure that, okay, I am going to be in front of a bunch of cameras and a bunch of random people that I don't even know? So were you nervous?
Yes, 100%. Yeah, nerves do come into the play, just because with your first one, you just don't know, right? You don't know how you're going to look. You don't know how it's going to turn out. You don't know. It's just a lot of things that you don't know until you actually jump into it and actually do it. And then once again, the same way that I explained how it took my wife to convince me, or kind of push me into become a personal trainer. It was the same ordeal with doing my first bodybuilding show.
Wow.
Now, I probably drove her nuts with how I said I want to be a bodybuilder and I want to step on stage and I want to do this and I want to do that, but I wasn't taking the steps to actually do it.
Right.
And I kept making the excuse and using the excuse of I'm just not ready yet. Oh, my legs aren't big enough yet. I don't weigh enough. It's just all the excuses in the book of why I kept pushing it back further and further and further. Right. And it just got to a point to once again she just said, "Hey, enough with the talk.
Right.
Let's see you back it up."
Right. So I've always heard this statement, behind every successful man is woman, and I think that's true in your case, because
100%.
Your wife is just pushing you constantly, for you to become a personal trainer and to do your first bodybuilding show. I think that is definitely something that women are great at. Pushing.
She's definitely my biggest supporter. She's she wants nothing but the best for me, and she's always gonna look out for my best interest, and that's how it's always been since day one with her. And something I'm really thankful for. Being able to meet her and her being able to stick out through all the all the stresses that I put us under throughout all the years. But yeah, no, it's something that I just is very thankful to have her in my life, and very thankful that she is very headstrong in that way, to where she always says, you can't live in fear.
Absolutely.
If you live in fear, then you're not actually living.
That is true.
And it was, I think, my two examples of how she encouraged me, or really put a foot up my ass in order to start training and start bodybuilding. That's a prime example of it right there.
Absolutely.
There was some sort of fear that I had with taking on the personal training job, whether it be that I might fail at it or I might not be good at it, right? But how would I know that it would turn into a successful career for me at this point in time if I never actually tried?
Absolutely.
How would I know that I wouldn't be as successful as I am with my bodybuilding if I didn't step on that stage for the first time? Yeah, so there was a fear behind it in some way or another. She helped me overcome that.
Absolutely. And I think hats off to your wife for pushing you and turning you into a beast that you are today. So there are a lot of bodybuilders out there. They want to do their first show. They always have this dream that, okay, I'm working so hard for it, and I want this to be paid off one day. Mm-hmm. So what advice do you have for them, the people who want to get into bodybuilding, who want to do shows and stuff?
It's one of those things where it's like I didn't realize it until, like I said, I was pushed by my wife to jump in and just do it, but it's one of those things where it's like, hey, yeah, you got to make sure you're going to present yourself with a good physique, with what you're trying to do, whether it be bodybuilding, classic physique, whether it be for girls, even if it's figure, bikini, whatever it is you're trying to do, yeah, you got to make sure you're in shape for it. Right?
Absolutely.
But at the same time, it's like, you're not going to know until you actually do it.
Absolutely. You know what I think is they should definitely get good wives. If they want to get into...
You need a strong somebody strong at your side to help support. 100%.
Absolutely.
But,
so do I.
But yeah, I mean, I always had, the thought in my mind that at the time when I did my first show, that I wouldn't be ready, right? But how would I know that I'm not ready for it if it's something that I've never done?
That is true.
My first show, I was actually pretty successful at it. In the novice division, I placed first, and then in the open division, I placed second. It's like, how would I have known that I would have done that well if I would have never tried?
Absolutely. Speaking on that, I've been thinking about starting a YouTube channel for the past 2 years, but I never had the balls to do it. I was always nervous. I was always scared. I was in my zone. And I always used to think what others might think about me, and how people would take me if I put up a YouTube channel and stuff. But I think last month I was just sitting down one day and then just thinking about it, and I realized that nobody actually cares. It's you. It's your life. You gotta make your own decisions. And that's when I decided, okay, I'm just gonna go for the kill. So my first stop was Best Buy. I went ahead and purchased a bunch of stuff, cameras and blah blah blah, whatever, and then I decided, all right, I was nervous, I was still nervous, I'm still nervous, but I decided that I'll just do it. What's the worst that could happen? People will not like me. I don't care. At least I will not die having a regret that I didn't work for my YouTube channel.
Yeah.
So at least I can die happily is what I think. And
you're giving it your best effort. And that's what it comes down to.
Absolutely.
When you have passion for something, it's one of those things where it doesn't matter, what it is that people are going to think about it. If you have passion for something, you're going to want to do it just for yourself.
Absolutely.
Right? And when you do something for yourself, and if you're that passionate about it, and if you want to be great at it, you're going to give it your full effort.
Yes. So, and Jake, I think, when I thought about this, I actually thought that, all right, so if I do this, one day I'll become a big YouTuber, and then my friend I was actually discussing this with one of my friends, and I said, "Hey, I want to do this," and he stopped me right away. He was like, "Dude, are you sure you want to do this?" I said, "Yeah, it's been my passion for the past 2 years. I just want to do it." And then when I was recording videos and stuff, like the test runs and stuff, he saw my potential, and he said, "I think you're right. I think you should just work through your passion, and I think you will get to where you want to be." And I'm happy that I started this. Now I don't have any regrets. That's for sure. So Jake, we've talked about your past. We've talked about your bodybuilding shows, nutrition, Instagram, and so many things. One thing that I wanted to ask you is, so what's next for you?
What's next for me right now, within my personal life, is my wife and I were moving to Las Vegas.
Oh, we'll miss you, Jake.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I'm gonna miss everybody here too.
Absolutely.
But yeah, I got some family that back home that we got to help take care of. So heading back home to be with family, and then also too, my wife being from Hawaii, gets her close to her family as well. And what's next for me is I want to get back on stage. First things first, I got to get out there and rebuild my business, and be starting fresh again. First time I'll be starting fresh as a trainer since the first time that I actually became a trainer. So this is going to be a new experience for me.
Absolutely.
Ever since I started training, I've trained in one gym. I started at 24, and I've been at that same gym up until this current day. So it's going to be definitely something new for me to be able to go to a new gym, have a fresh start, and really, have to rebuild my business. But this time around, I've got the experience behind me, and I know what I'm getting myself into, and I know what I got to do in order to go out and get it.
Well, I know that what I'm going to do next is, because I travel a lot, and my next stop is going to be Vegas. I'm going to call you and be like, "Hey, Jake, let's hang out." And you're like, "Oh, dude, this person, not again." Yeah, right? So
no, not at all. Come on over. We'll hang out by the pool. We'll go get some food.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, Jake, there's one last segment of our show that I just want you to sign a T-shirt, and I can save that as a memory.
Let's go. This guy right here.
Perfect.
All right. Right on the right lapel here.
Absolutely.
All right, stretch it out for me.
Well, thank you so much for signing the shirt, Jake. Guys, let me show you what. So let me read it out for you actually. So it says, "To Atif, thanks for having me as your first guest. Good luck, and I hope for much success for you, Jake." Thank you so much, Jake, for joining us today. And guys, stay tuned for more episodes, and we'll be coming back with some more inspirational stories. Until then, signing off.